While doing research for my video covering every chem inside the Fallout series, which will be finished soon, and please feel free to subscribe if you would like to receive notification when it is released, I came across one chem that has some really cool real-world implications, which I really thought deserved its own video. This is because I feel like this chem is a little bit overlooked in the game due to its lackluster effects, but the little history we have from the lore, how it relates to the real world, and the possible expansion that we can make from this relationship is, I feel, very interesting. So what chem am I talking about? It's Daytripper, a simple chem on the surface with minimal effects in game, but has a history similar to a real-world drug that many of you may be familiar with. So let's begin by talking about Daytripper and how we find it inside of Fallout 4. Daytripper is a mild hallucinogen that was designed and created pre-war. A hallucinogen is a drug that alters the user's state of consciousness, such as thought, mood, and perception. The effects of Daytripper are +3 to luck and charisma, while a -2 to strength for a limited amount of time, which makes this chem great to take and pair with charisma clothes and great mentats if you're attempting to pass a speech check or barter, or with any clothes that add luck if you're attempting to get that darn piece of pie from the vending machines. The only lore that we get inside of the game for Daytripper comes from the Fallout 4 loading screen, which describes Daytripper as, quote, a pre-war chem favored by those looking for a happy escape. A happy escape? At first I thought to myself, isn't that the reason why most people take chems or drink alcohol? Is for a happy escape? Well, yes, but I feel that the implications for this chem specifically are what make it interesting. See, there was a lot going on inside of the Fallout universe near the time of the Great War that would make people want to find a happy escape, especially that a mild hallucinogen can provide them. Just to name a few things off the bat, the resource shortages, the Sino-American War, as well as the food riots in 2077. Aside from that, there was also a counterculture inside the United States, with rioters, protests, as well as some general distrust for the government, and a lot of anti-war sentiment. As an example, inside of Fallout New Vegas, there was a group of hippie protesters led by a person named Sunflower Summers. I think it's an awesome name, by the way. But Sunflower Summers seemed to be protesting, along with their group of people, the nuclear armaments in Hopeville, as well as presumably the Sino-American War as a whole. There are also some anti-war graffiti that can be found in Hidden Valley on the rocks, evidencing some general anti-war sentiment. Taking all this into consideration, the popular use of Daytripper as, again, a symbol to go to a happy escape is almost identical to a drug that was used in real life around the time of the Divergence, which was also a hallucinogen that gained popularity during a long and drawn-out war by people harboring an anti-war sentiment during certain resource shortages, and was also popular during one of the largest counterculture and anti-government movements in history. And this drug is LSD. One of the first things I learned about Daytripper is that the name itself is very likely a reference to LSD. One of the most popular bands of the 1960s were the Beatles. I love most of their music, but one of my favorite songs is called Daytripper. I personally like the song because it's very upbeat, but in 2004, Paul McCartney mentioned in an interview that the song was about LSD. While this could be the inspiration of the name of the chem, it could also just be a coincidence. Either way, it says something about the similarities of the chem with a real-world counterpart. The thing about Daytripper inside of Fallout 4 is that it's obviously not LSD. It has a few different characteristics physically, and its use in the Fallout universe, at least from the lore we can piece together, seems to be accepted publicly. Unlike LSD, which was banned by the United States government alongside other hallucinogenic drugs in 1968, Daytripper is sold in brand-name bottles alongside other well-known chems such as Mentats and Buffout, with very popular companies openly producing chems for commercial use, such as MedTech and Hallucinogen Incorporated. Furthermore, and this really speaks to how interesting the Fallout universe really was, chems as a whole seem to be generally accepted standard inside of society. There are obviously a few exceptions, but as a whole, people don't seem to look down on chem use. In fact, in Fallout 4, there's even a pre-war issue of Surgical Journal that presumably goes into detail about the benefits of chem use in pre-war America. Even post-war, chems are sold over the counter, especially in places like New Vegas casinos and Diamond City. So it's obvious that Daytripper and LSD have their differences, but it's honestly the similarities surrounding both chems that I find more interesting. Let's talk about a few of those. Like I mentioned previously, there were a lot of things going on in the Fallout universe at the time that would incentivize people to want a happy escape, with one of them being the Sino-American War. The entire history of the Sino-American War, including the invasion of Alaska, the context behind the resource shortages that were so desperate to warrant such an invasion, as well as the buildup and escalation of fighting, really deserves its own video. But it's safe to say that all this 10-year-long war really took its toll on not only the American military, but the people involved as well. I'm just speculating here, but I'm sure that having an easily available access to a chem such as Daytripper would be popular with, say, people who really wanted to escape living in that situation. Such as soldiers in the American military, Americans living in Alaska during the middle of a Chinese invasion, veterans who are injured and hurting every day, or just recently annexed Canadian citizens with their own riots and day-to-day struggles to deal with. This environment is almost identical to the one that LSD soared to popularity in during the 1960s and early 1970s. Inside of the United States during this time, there were a lot of reasons to be mad at the government. The civil rights movement was in full swing, there was a huge change in the mindset between generations, as well as one of the most brutal conflicts, the Vietnam War, was in full swing under the Johnson administration with no signs of stopping. People at that time, honestly, seemed to be overall miserable. A perfect environment for a hallucinogen like LSD to flourish in. I also want to mention between the Sino-American War and the Vietnam War. While both of these conflicts were very drawn out and had a huge effect on the American people, they aren't identical. One huge distinction that I want to make is that drug use was very prevalent and very well documented among soldiers in Vietnam. I mean, the video you're currently watching is soldiers smoking flowers out of a shotgun. I'm sure you know what I mean by flower. The Vietnam War was very drawn out, and the soldiers sent there were very demoralized. They felt like they were fighting for nothing, which is a situation I don't see the Americans being in during the Sino-American War. What I'm trying to say is, I don't want to speculate or assume that the Americans were using chems during the Sino-American War. There's simply no evidence of this, but I could understand if they did, and if it was a similar situation to Vietnam, especially with Daytripper, a chem that's designed to relax the user and find a happy place. And to be fair, the situations that LSD and Daytripper find themselves in aren't exactly the same. The Fallout universe is very different from our own, but the kind of drug that Daytripper is, as well as how and when it was used, at least for me, expands my viewpoint on what lore Bethesda might have been trying to expand into when adding this into the game. Thank you guys for watching this short video on the Daytripper chem inside of Fallout 4. I much prefer to find concrete evidence when it comes to lore, but even though this video was about comparison and speculation, I still hope you found it as interesting as I did. Like I mentioned previously, if you're interested in more Fallout chem lore and would like to see a video describing all of the chems inside the Fallout series, please feel free to subscribe so you will be notified when it comes out soon. Thank you for watching again, and I hope you have a great day.